I ran into this guy who's a lead singer with the Talking Heads out here. David.
David Byrne.
David Byrne. He's a cool guy. He was real nice. He came out of this restaurant. There's another example too. When I first walked in, let me show you this place over here. I gotta tell you about this place. It's such a shame. So this is the site of the old Cariba bodega. Yes, I did say bodega on West 11th Street. There was a bodega. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Good spot,
Yeah, it was a great spot, right?
Outside they closed.
Outside it closed too, man. So this is the shot of the Cariba bodega. And when I was first working in the West Village in 2007, I always wondered, like, how do people, like, eat in this neighborhood? You know what I'm saying? The working class people. And then, like, I was walking down, I walked down here, and I saw this bodega open. And I swear to God, I thought it was a number spot. You know, I thought they were selling drugs out here. And I was like, how the hell can you have a bodega in this neighborhood? How can you afford it? As it turns out, the bodega survived through everybody who does work here, right? Used to eat out of this bodega. So that means all the doormen, all the delivery people, all the porters who live in this neighborhood, which is about half the Bronx, right? Used to eat over here. You know, I used to joke around all the time is that if everyone in this neighborhood went on strike, this whole entire neighborhood would collapse. Because you think about the economy of this place, the porters, the messengers, the delivery, all those people, right? All keep this place going. Not to say that everyone's like that, but it's a big factor. So they all ate here, and they used to sell like really good rice and beans and chicken for $5. You know, for $5, you get a whole plate of chicken, whole thing of rice and beans. And that'll last you. You can share it with people. So, and they closed around 2 years ago, and they haven't opened it back up. But from what I heard, it wasn't that they couldn't pay the rent. It was just like, once again, it was just like the landlord wanting more money. So, and this used to be a very vibrant spot. It used to be open till 9 o'clock. You get cigarettes. When I smoked, you can get my cigarettes here, my daily news, my whatever, nice cats. You know, it used to be really friendly, family-owned place. I don't know what happened to them, whether they retired or they left, but you know, it's no one would know. There's not even a marker here to indicate what the space is going to be. So this is the old bodega. There's another bodega down here too. This is cute. This should be the home of the brecht.
The new home.
Here.
Yeah, that spiral staircase.
Yeah, exactly. Max can live over here. I can live over here. And we have public programs right over here. It'd be great.
You're gonna take over this all of these buildings, all the way down.
All the way up and down, you know?
Was this damaged by the storm? Is this why?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Sometimes I can't confuse whether it's damaged or it's an art project. I'm assuming it's probably hit by the storm.
Yeah. They're funny buildings.
Yeah. Look at this guy, a little basketball hoop in there. So that's perfect. The Brecht Forum before was the first place on Brecht Forum we were at on Barrow and Christopher Street in 1975, and the rent was a whopping, mind you, this is for 2 floors, was a whopping $50 a month. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure the Brecht probably had trouble paying that back then. It seems like we're just cursed. It's kind of hard to do poor people's work. But yeah, it was right on Barrow and Christopher, 1975. And back then there used to be a cafe that was downstairs, and I'll show it to you, but they used to drink coffee and get food at the cafe right after class. And the thing about it too was that everyone who lived, who worked in that initial brecht form, lived in a neighborhood or lived close. And that's the problem right now in New York City, because that's why we wonder why activism can't be as strong. It's because we don't really live next to each other.
Right.
Unless you live in Brooklyn. But I live in the Bronx. It was kind of scattered. You know, and so it's harder for us to get together, you know, the energy to get together. But, you know, that's why I say we have to go beyond movement spaces to movement communities.
Those are our high scores are 19. Wait, look, don't hurry,
That's a warm thing. Hello, yes. How you doing?
I'm chilling, man. How are you?
I wonder what happened to you.
I've been around, brother. Are you crying? You miss me that much?
Oh no, it's been tragic.
Oh, it's tragedy.
One of the things is that you have so much turnover in New York City. There's so many people coming into the city, particularly young people, and they really need to gravitate towards ethical spaces where they can grow in the city and get a footing. When my father first came into New York City in the 1960s, there were bars that were like a North Carolina bar, a South Carolina bar, a Virginia bar, a bar where like folks from back home gathered, and you can get your footing and find out about jobs. You can get your mail there. You know, you can hang out and just get to know folks. In the pressure of a lot of these institutions and times when we don't really have a lot of like these kind of public spaces, like institutions become that. And so I feel that there's a special need, particularly within social justice movements, to create these kind of ethical spaces for young people, where they can gather, they can plan, they can feel safe, they can do good, right? And so I think that, like, you know, places like the Brecht Forum, other institutions around the city kind of play that role in the city in particular. And you know, and I think that it's an essentially human phenomenon, you know. So yeah. Oh my God, what is the West Village losing? Oh my God, the West Village is losing a lot. I think it's losing its character. I think that it's losing. You know, the reason people came to the West Village in the first place is because they were running away from their own communities. You know what I'm saying? So they came to the West Village because the West Village was open. And it kind of opened their arms and said, whether you're gay, whether you're black, whether you're, you know, racially mixed, you have a space here. And you have a space to do art, you have a space to be yourself. And, you know, and be supported in that. And they created a cultural nub here that was really amazing. And now, because of that, it became very trendy. You know, and so, like, more and more you're using the institutional character and historical memory of the space. One of the things that really saddens me, but I think is really funny at the same time, is that people spend hundreds of dollars to take these tours, these Sex and the City tours in the neighborhood. And basically what it is, you get on a big tour bus and you drive around the West Village and you go to places where Carrie Bradshaw used to go. So the big one is Magnolia Bakery. And it's just funny because you see these tours and you see that's who's replicating, who's coming into the neighborhood. You know, it's the kind of Carrie Bradshaw type of personalities, or people who want to be like Carrie Bradshaw, Sex and the City types, and you know, and it's funky. You know, I think it's funny because every time I see them over there, they give out free cupcakes from Magnolia, and I'm always like, I want a cupcake. I'm taking a cupcake. Redistribution, but you know, I mean. You know, you lose a lot of character. I mean, this neighborhood in the West, specifically the West Side Highway, was such a, it's such a gay hub. It's such a hub of multiracial mixing. It's a commons. You know, that's what it is in New York City. It's what you call a commons, a place where people from around the city can come, meet, greet each other, see each other, and recognize each other. You know what I'm saying? And then go back to their neighborhood and revitalize their communities. And I don't think you're going to have, you know, it's going to be hard to have that here when you don't have institutions like you know, neighborhood institutions anchoring it. So, yeah, it's a little sad, you know, but who knows? I mean, you know, Maybe we'll make a comeback. There's always second acts in politics, right? So, I mean, the thing about it is, like, to be honest with you, like, the original project of Brecht Forum was not to be this one monolithic institution, but to really be in every single community, right? Because I think every community deserves to have a Brecht Forum, right? I think every community deserves a space where you can interact with intellectuals and activists, and people can drop in and use the space and do whatever. And you know, in order for that to happen, I think you need to, like, think now about having a movement of thousands. Like, I think we have to move from just having movement spaces to having movement communities. You know, like, someone said something that was really wise to me. It's like, we need to move from charismatic leadership to charismatic communities. And I feel like that's the way we have to go into. And I think that, we have to create those conditions where people feel charismatic and feel good and be like, we're going to create, like, spaces where, like, we have ownership and control over. So you need to have a Brecht Forum in the South Bronx, you need to have it in Harlem, you need to have it in Delaware, you need to have it in Indonesia, you need to have it all over the place, and call it whatever you want to call it. Call it the Audre Lorde Forum, call it the Jane Jacobs Forum, call it whatever is the place that, is institution, that you feel inspired to do it so. And do it in your living room. I think that's really great. This woman came from Berlin, and she said something that was really hit me. And she said, I've been showing this film about black folks in Berlin for years, but this is the first time I was able to show it outside someone's living room in a public space. And I was like, then when she said that, I was like, my God, like, that's when I was really like, wow, like, this space is amazing. This is really special. So yeah, I think that is the intention of it. You keep it up, you create it more and more. People will want it. People will create it. People will have it. And it'll be different. Bertolt Brecht said himself, everything changes. I felt like when I heard that Whitney was coming through, I had this for like 5 seconds. I felt like for like 5 minutes, I had all these visions in my head about collaborations between the Whitney and the Brecht Forum. And then I realized, and then when we found out that they weren't renewing our lease, I was just like, oh, that's what's happening. We're like, swap it out. We're not coming. They're not coming to hang out with us. Like, no, it's. I mean, to me, I think that speaks to the fact of, like, how, I feel that something that Duke Ellington said was that after the money's gone, all you're gonna have is music. And I think that after the money's gone, all you're gonna have is art. The first thing you had in human history was art, right? People worked 2 hours a day, but they spent the rest of the day telling stories and they painted. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like what we're striving to do in terms of humanity is go back to that. Go back to the time we had free time and all we did was talk and create art and share with each other. And so what I think about the Whitney is that I think the Whitney is sometimes, I think about it and on one level I'm happy for them and I hope that they do well. And I hope they have a really strong public education program, and I hope that they do really good community outreach, and I hope that school children come through this neighborhood and see some of the fine collections they have and do a lot of that stuff. But another part of me also wants to see a democratization of art. I want to see a situation where, you can't talk about having an American master's program without talking about the grassroots. Jacob Lawrence came out of the community center. Jean-Michel Basquiat came out of the Brooklyn Museum's art program. Every American master that you talk about has come out of some sort of community-based program that encouraged them. And so when you're talking about having the Whitney on one hand that has billions of dollars, and then in the South Bronx there's no art class, what's the future of American art? What's the future of global art? And so ironically, I think what happens is that as these institutions amass more and more wealth, what's going to happen is people are going to start self-organizing and create their own art scenes. And then what's going to happen is that, the museums are going to start chasing the people who have their own creative art scenes. And and that's going to be there's going to be a flip in terms of the dynamic of power. And I think that it's going to, and I think that's what's going to happen. So, I wish the Whitney well. I hope they would give us discounts. And I hope that, but my biggest hope is that ultimately that we continue to fight for democratization of art. There's no reason why we should have someone like Julian Schnabel living in a multi-million dollar building, and you got some guy on the street selling art for $1. It's like no other country in the world treats its artists the way we treat our artists. Not even in Zimbabwe. I was there. I'm sorry for talking, but when I was in Zimbabwe, they didn't have any much money, but everything that came into what they got, they shared everything. They shared all the food, all the resources, and so they were able to sculpt and hang out in the park and do the sculpture. And we need the same type of artist economies here in this country. But it gets so competitive because what people get into is like, you're the one, you're the hot one, you're the one I'm going to pay $1 million, and you're not the one. And the one who doesn't have the million money gets angry at the one that has the money, and the one that has the money goes crazy because the money ruins the art. Because they feel like they have to please the people who give them the money, and it's a racket. So I say that to say, I think that I think we're gonna be okay. I think we'll be okay. I'm very proud of the art program we have here. We give space to a lot of people, and everyone who comes in and sees the art at the Brecht Forum is like, this is the most amazing art I've ever seen. I've never seen this stuff before, and that to me it makes me happy, makes all of us happy. It's amazing what you can do when you have no money. But money's not an issue. You do some amazing stuff.